Hi and welcome back to the Event Lighting channel. This video is part 2 of a small 2-part series. I posted a video last week going through my workflow on GrandMA3, how I start everything up, how I work with pages and songs and timecodes, how I select everything, how I switch pages, all kinds of different things. If you missed that video, I'm going to put a link up there somewhere so you can check that one out first. And this video, as I said, is part 2, so I'm just going to continue my workflow on GrandMA3, showing you how I structure everything. We did a lot of recipe programming last time. I did some cleanup, and I think we're going to start with doing some timecode, just a simple timecode setup, how we can implement timecode in our show, how we can use, in this case, external timecode to make it just run by itself, and we can record information from our show and use bump cues and stuff like that. So welcome back to the Event Lighting channel in our little GrandMA3 tutorial series. So let's continue. You can see here we have our new song from last time. We are in the start queue, and if you look at the 3D information back here, you can see the first queue is simply our pause queue or our standard queue, and if I press go, it's going to start building our little show here. We can go through it. Verse number 1, they start to move around. In the chorus, they start flashing on the lead singer, and all sorts of stuff is happening in the background. We have a little break up here, and we go back to our verse, go into our chorus again. Then we have a guitar solo, and then we go back to verse 3. We have a break here where we use the phaser effects again. We have an end before our flashing outro here, and then we have an end break, and then we go back to our pause cue. So my plan is in this video to start recording a timecode, and we can record some different actions in the timecode, and I can show you how the tracks work in the timecode, and then we simply just continue from last time. So let's go back to cue number 1. And in here you can see we have our timecode active. You can see right here in the timecode window. If we want to record timecode now, we need to do a little thing here, because we need to select a different timecode slot. So we go into the settings right here, and we find out timecode slot number 1. So we just click that one like we normally do, and we select the internal timecode up here. And the internal timecode is basically the console is not listening for timecode, it just generates its own. So if I start my timecode now, I go to setup and I can start recording my timecode, and it will just start running. So basically that's just an internal timecode, the timecode is just running inside the console. So if we stop the recording and we go all the way back, we can start a recording now. We are in Q1, and if you remember from last time, when I switch pages, the first queue is activated on the new song, on the new page, and that automatically goes into queue number 1. So we don't have to store any information on queue number 1. So let's say we are in our timecode now, and we press record. The timecode will start running, and as soon as the band starts playing, we can simply just record our first cue in our timecode. And as you can see here, our new song is registered, the timecode is still running, and we can simply just go through our entire song, and our entire song is going to be recorded step by step on the timecode. So let's just tap through it. We go into the chorus, and it's probably going to be a very short song, this one. So let's just continue here. We have a break, and then we go straight back into verse number 2. Then once again we have our chorus, and then after that we have our guitar solo, and he plays for a very short time, and then we go back into verse number 3, and as you can see, it just stores the entries on the timecode itself. We go into our break right here, and then the end before our song or our outro. Then we have our outro flash, then we have our end break, and then it goes into the pause queue. So that's basically how you would record a timecode in GrandMA3. It is super simple, and you can see it's still running. We can stop the recording now, and if you remember from last time, my next cue will simply just go my next page, so it's just going to flip to the next song because that's the standard I always use. This is the last song of our entire set list, so that wouldn't make any point doing that right now. But if we rewind the timecode down here, we can start playing, and even though we are in queue 14 now, it's probably going to jump up to queue number 2 now, as you can see, and then everything starts running on its own. And in a minute we are going to go into queue number 3, like this, and this is basically how timecode works. We can just pause this one, and if you see down here, it just recorded a track of our master, which is basically our speed master over here, because I have an entry here recording our speed master, and I don't want that. Maybe if I press delete, yeah, now it's gone. So I can simply just delete a track again if I want to, and you can see the intensity speed here as well. Let's just delete that track. If you have made a mistake in your timecode, you can easily go in and change it. So in this case, we just go into the marker here, and we can select an entry. We can zoom a little bit in so it's easier to see, and then we can go back and forth in the timecode if we want to. Here you can simply go into this one, which is Move tool, and then you can move the entries all the way from where you want to where you want to position it. It's a little difficult, but you can do it. You can also do it on the encoder over here. You have the cursor, and basically you should be able to move the cursor, and then again you can select a marker like this, and you should be able to move the marker as well. There we go, on the encoder wheels. But you have to work with it to see how it works and see what works for you. It is a little difficult to move stuff around like this. So this is basically pretty simple, working with timecode on GrandMA3. And let's just put it back here somewhere, and then you can see for some reason we have an entry up here. We need to delete that. We just press the minus and we touch it, and it's gone. And now we deleted another one, which is not the point. We say oops, and it's back. We go down to the move tool again. We can scale it a little bit out, and we can basically just move it around. You can see right now our queue number 3 has disappeared. We can move the cursor down here. We can press record, and then we can find the right place to put it in and simply just activate it again. So let's just start over. We say stop, go all the way back. We start our recording again, and it's going to start in queue number 2 in a second. Now it goes to queue number 2. I can simply say go to queue 3, and when I want to, I can simply just add it back in. So working with timecode is pretty easy. But let's see, this is only one track right here. We need to put some other tracks in as well. So once again, we have this intensity speed because I have my speedmaster here. I could disable it. Let's just take it out for now. Let's call it something crazy. Now it's not going to work. So if we once again delete this one, it's gone again. So let's go all the way back, start our recording again, and now once again it's going to go into queue number 2 in a second. And maybe we could use some of the bump cues we have here as well. You can see now it goes into queue number 3, and we can use the bump cues again. We can do some odd even with the washes in the roof, and you can see it automatically creates new slots or new tracks in the timecode. We can use the blinders. And as you can see, I took the blinders out of our programming. We did put the blinders in last time, but at the not at the end of this video, but later in this video, I'm going to show you how we can delete our patch, how we can import an MVR, how we can repopulate everything in our programming. So that's part of this video too. So basically, I just wanted to show you how timecode works, and you can see it is extremely simple to work with. And if we now go back again, you can see I have all these entries now with the timecode. We have fader movement down here from our blinders. Everything is pretty easy to work with. So that's very simple, very simply put, how timecode works on GrandMA3. So what we didn't do in the last tutorial, if I go back one page and I go forward one page, it doesn't activate the timecode. Maybe I don't want to activate it in queue number 1 because this is an internal timecode, so I'm waiting for the band to do something specific. I think we talked about that in the last video as well. So what I could do here, we can just delete this master here, and I could say go timecode, and we called it new song. And if I am in queue number 1 now, as soon as I press go, you can see the timecode starts running by itself, and it's simply because I said go to the timecode. So what happens if I stop the timecode now and I go back into queue number 1 and I go queue number 1 again? You can see it simply continues, and that's because we haven't told the timecode to rewind. So let's just do that real quick. We could do that in the, I usually do it in the last queue down here. We can say pause queue, we can say top, timecode, new song, oops, like that. Top, I need to say top and not Tom. There we go. So we are here now, and the timecode, let's just say the timecode is running. We go through our entire show here, and at the pause queue you can see it jumps back and it starts over down here. So what we need to do first in this case is to stop the timecode. We can say off timecode new song, and I keep pressing the large O here like this, and then we need this semicolon to separate the two different commands. So now if I go into queue number 12 and we just say our end break here, and I go into my pause queue, you can see it tops the timecode, or it stops the timecode and goes all the way back to the beginning. So that's basically how you work with internal timecode. If you are working with SemptyCode, you're getting it in through MIDI or through audio in the back of the console. It works a little bit different. You can still record a timecode. You can simply press record, and it will not do anything before it receives timecode. And as soon as it receives timecode, it's going to start running. And when it's running, you can store your commands and do everything, and you can go back and forth in the song, and the timecode will jump into the right position. So it's really, really easy to work with. So there you don't have to top any timecode. You can simply just record it, and then as soon as you go the timecode, it's simply just going to press play on the timecode, but it's not going to run until it receives the timecode. So it's quite simple. And then as soon as you press play on your timecode generator or your computer or whatever you use, it's going to start running. So that's very, very simply put how you work with timecode on GrandMA3. So let's continue. My plan here is that let's say we did our show now, and we played at one festival, and today we arrived at a new festival. We are going to delete all the house rig in our patch, and we are going to import an MVR file and prepare that into our system, put it into our system and store our groups and everything we want to do to make everything work again. I have a few macros I'm going to show you and some cloning things. It's very, very simple if you introduce a new fixture to clone some information into it. So, but let's just get into it. We go into our patch here, and maybe we should just for the fun of it save this show. Oops. We could save this show as we could say before repatch. We change the name. There we go. So let's go into the patch now and delete everything from our house system. Remember, we had it in some different groups. I have our local production, which is the one we're going to work with now. Then I have my Dodo production, which is my tour production. I don't want to touch that at all because that's just going to stay the way it is. And then I have some global fixtures down here, which I basically use for cloning. Remember when you work with global and universal and selective presets, if you did a fixture in your show, if you used a fixture in your show and you stored all your presets as global, you only need one fixture to make all the global information work. I did a separate video on that a few months ago, which I'm going to try to link up in the corner if you don't know the difference between selective, global and universal presets. It's quite simple. But you can see here I have some information here which is just global information on some of the fixtures. I usually use this one 1601 to clone information into my wash fixtures, and this one 1701 to close into my profile fixtures in my show. I could delete some of the other ones here. I think I'm actually going to do that. Let's just take these three here. Let's just take these three and delete them because they're gone from our show. Let's just go out, save that, go back into the patch, and we should be up and running now. So let's go into our local production. We had a lot of blinders, we had a lot of different fixtures, so let's just go in and delete all of them. We take all the clusters, which was the blinders in the roof. We have some front light here, some park hands, which we didn't really use in the last show. We have some strobes we can delete. We have some washes you can delete. And I'm sure if you wanted to, you could make some sort of macro that did this for you, but I just think it's a little bit dangerous to have macros in your show who delete stuff. Let's say our smoke machines we can delete as well, and some local MVR info, we can delete that as well. There we go. So now we have no blinders, no front light, no strobes, no washes, no spots, no smoke, and no MVR info. I'll tell you in a minute why I have the MVR info. So let's just save and exit, and you can see on the if we go into queue number 1 now, you can see our house rig is gone. There's no house rig anymore in our show file. So what we need to do now is to prepare an MVR file. I just want to show you how you do that on a computer, because usually someone will send you an email with an MVR file for a festival somewhere, and you need to put it into to the right folder. So let's go to our USB drive here. You can see I have some old GrandMA2 shows on it as well. But if I go into GrandMA3, I go into my GrandMA3 library, I can go all the way down to MVR, and you can see I have one MVR, or my virtual rig, placed into this folder. The only important thing is if you receive an MVR file, that you put it into the MVR folder, because if you don't put it into that folder, the console can't see it. It's looking for that folder. So now we have the MVR info on this stick here. What I can do now is just reinsert it in the computer, because we're going to work here so you can see what is happening. It's back in the computer, and if you notice now, all my strobes, blinders, house, everything is just gone, because we deleted the patch, so we deleted all the information which was in these groups. So basically what we need to do now is import the MVR, make sure all the fixture numbers are correct, and then repopulate these groups. And once again, you could probably do some sort of fancy macro to do this. I just usually do this manually so I know what's happening. So let's go back into our settings. Let's go into our patch, and we can see everything is empty. Let's go down here to import an MVR, and it opens up the MVRs that are in our show file on the console itself, or on the computer, or whatever you're working on. But we need to look at the USB stick here. And what we're going to use is this one, PF2023, which is an MVR file I've used this summer somewhere. And let's just import it into our system. And you can see it's now preparing. The first thing you will see here is your own production, which is already in your console. So if we scroll down here, you will start seeing this over here, which is basically, if you look at whatever is in the left side, is your show, and whatever's in the right side is from the MVR file. If you remember partial show read on GrandMA2, it's very similar setup to partial show read. But basically what we want to do is we want to use everything here on the other side, and you can see it has fixture information, it has our name and fixture information and a patch, and that's basically all we need. And then in this fixture information is also where it's placed in X, Y, and Z. So it actually, if it is 6 meters in the roof and 6 meters back on a back truss, it will show up there. So let's just try to import the MVR, and everything is now put into our show, and you can see everything here: Viber Performance, our auras, some XIPs, some Thomas 2 lights, some Cameo, Cynet things. And basically what we need to do now is put everything in the right groups. That's what I need to do. You don't have to do that. That's up to you, but that's the way I want to do it. You can see there's no fixture numbers on the MVR, and that is because if you use WYSIWYG, for instance, usually you would draw your drawing, and especially here in Denmark, people would use unit numbers to address or to give them unit numbers. MVR only looks at spot numbers. So if you are a WYSIWYG user and you have used unit numbers, then they are not going to be there in the MVR file. It's not that important because the X, Y, and Z information is there, so the unit numbers doesn't really matter anymore because we are using recipes and we are using the selection grid. But I'll show you how it works. Let's start by taking all the auras here. This is our wash fixtures we need from our show or to our show, and we simply just cut them like this, and we scroll down and find wherever we need them. And we need it in our wash group here, and we can simply just paste them in here. And I can, in the same procedure here, just give them the number I want. And what I usually do is I sort this out by patch, which I think it is right now. You can go up here and just hold this one, and it's gonna do the sorting of the entire fixture sheet or in the entire patch based on the patch number. So this is the way it is sorted right now. Let's just say we just populated our house washes here. Let's go into our Viber Performance here, and we cut this, and we want to put that into our profile group here, our spots group, and we paste it in here, and we give them the name we want, 701 in my case. We have some Cameo Cynet W600, which is a strobe kind of thing. We cut that, and we go up into our house strobes, and we paste it in, and we give it the fixture ID we want. And as I said, if you imported it or exported it correctly into your MVR file, it will actually still have the unit number, the fixture ID, but that depends on the way you exported it and what program you exported it from. There's a difference if you use Vectorworks, if you use Capture, if you use WYSIWYG, and whatever, it will behave a little bit different. We have these XIPs here, which is probably what is supposed to be the washes. Let's just cut that and put that into the washes, because I think I made a mistake here. Let's paste that in, and let's take all the auras here, oops, and give them a different fixture ID, because I think that's the front light actually. So we just called them 101 instead, and we call these ones 601. Oops. Let's just make sure we have everything. 601, please. And we take these ones and we cut them and we put them into the front light group, which is right there. We paste that in there. So that's our front light, that's our washes, and we all have fixture numbers on them. Then we have a lot of blinders, and we can cut that and put into our blinder group here, and we paste it in. And what else is in here? We have some DMX devices. That looks like smoke machines, basically. What are they? Multi-fixtures. They are not. Let's just mark these ones, cut them, and put them into the smoke group. We can work with them later. We just call them 901, which is what I call smoke fan, smoke fan. There we go. Now we set up everything, and now we have leftovers, which is basically all the environmental stuff we have in our MVR file. Our MVR file can contain all our fixtures, but it can also contain set pieces, trusses, all kinds of stuff. You can just delete it, or you can just keep it somewhere where it's not cluttering up. You can use this one, which is hide environmental. If you press this one, all which is not a lighting fixture will go away. But I'm usually just take all this stuff and I put it in the same way. I cut it and I put it into local MVR info should I ever need it. So I paste it in here and just close this one, and that's basically it. Now everything is put into the right groups in my patch. And if you remember last time I showed you a macro that's going to sort everything into worlds. I'm going to show you how that works in a minute. So we try to close this, and we say save and exit. And let's see in our 3D here, you can see something came up in the ceiling right here. And if I go into the front view here and go into the orbit view here, you can see everything looks kind of right. You can see all the front light is doing a little bit funny, and I think that's basically because I at some point moved that group. But if I select it like this, should be able to, maybe it's old stuff, because we do have something here. I think that they're supposed to be hanging down here, so I can go back into my patch like this, and I can take my front group, which should contain these ones. I can show my 3D positions, and I should be able to, if I make this a little bit bigger, go into my, I clear this again, find my front group somewhere, close this stuff, local production, close this total production, local production, let's say our front here, and I should be able to maybe reset this to 0 and maybe reset that to 0 and see what happens. Now it looks a little bit better. You can see they are basically in the right position. We need to reset this one as well. And now they jumped into place. The reason why they were all the way off is at some point I moved my entire front group. You can move a single fixture or you can move an entire group. And at some point I moved the entire group because it came in wrong in the last MVR file. So just be aware, if something is in the wrong position, it might not be the fixture itself. It might be that the group you use, you have moved the entire group. And then when you import something into that group, it's going to be moved. So it's easy to reset it. You can see I just set all the axes back to 0 and it just jumped back into position. But let's just close this all the way down and our patch is almost done. Let's just check out if it shows the right fixtures, because you can see here it actually didn't. When you import fixtures into from MVR into your show, sometimes the fixture profile is not correct. The fixture profile might be a dummy profile, and as you can see in this case it says bulb DMX, which is a dummy profile. It takes a little getting used to how that works. You right click it. In my case I just go into dimmer and just take a normal simple 8-bit dimmer. I don't care how it looks in our 3D. I just need it for programming and for selecting my groups, because now I am on a real festival, so I have the rig in front of me. So how the 3D is set up and what elements are correct and not correct, it's not really important to me anymore. So let's just give them back the fixture numbers. 101, I think. No, maybe we call them 201. Yeah, that's kind of weird. I think I have switched these ones. I should call these ones for 201. 201. And yes, You can see it automatically deleted everything up here, and I call these ones 101. And we give it the right fixture profile, and we have to go through all of it and see our auras. You can see they are also a dummy fixture. I can right click and I can maybe choose a fixture we haven't used before in the show. We can say Martin, and maybe see if we can find something funny down here. We can use an XB, we can use maybe a quantum wash just for the fun of it in basic mode. There we go. And now the patch is wrong. The reason why I changed it is I don't want the aura in because I want to show you how you need to clone your stuff. And if I use a fixture I already have in my show, it's not going to work. So basically, let's just look in the global fixtures to see what we could choose. We have an XB. Let's just delete that. And now we have another XB and atomic and a profile. That's fine. We just take it back to the Aura XB here. Say library, Aura, XB, and we just choose, I don't know, the raw one maybe. It's a GrandMA2 profile. Let's just try that. Now it's a correct profile. Let's go back into our strobes. And once again, this is a dummy profile, so we say right click and we say library, we say W600 in, I don't remember what mode it was in, but that doesn't really matter. If it's a GDTF file, we just take the smallest one. And now we have a problem. It's only a 4-channel mode. So we right click again, W600, see if we can find a 4-channel mode for that one. Maybe this one works. Let's try it. No, it's actually a 3-channel mode. It's patched in. Let's just put it in a bigger mode. W600 in the 6-channel mode, and then we just repatch it. I know this is not the right way of doing it, but let's just try that in universe number. Let's just say universe 5. It doesn't matter right now. Because if this happened to you in real life, there would be a systems engineer right next to you. You could ask and say, okay, how is this patched? What mode is it in? How does it work? And so on. So basically, we are cheating a little bit now. The washes we need to put into our XIP mode. We say XIP, and we say Martin Professional. We just put it in, I think it's in basic mode. Yeah, looks like it's in basic mode, so now they are patched, and we didn't have any XIPs. No. Let's take the house spots, also a dummy fixture, and this can really be a little bit confusing sometimes, because usually when you open your patch, it's going to look like this. So it looks right, but then when you open it up, you can see it's kind of a dummy thing that's going on here. So we say Viber performance, and we go into Martin, take this one. Do we have a GDTF file? Yes, we do. We select that one, and should be okay. We are in basic mode, and we could change mode here if we wanted. Our smoke, we need to patch only a simple dimmer information as well, and that should be it. So now we are done. So we can close our patch, and we can save and exit, and we should be able to see some change up here in our file. You can see if we zoom in a little bit, we have populated everything. We have some wash fixtures, we have some profiles, and there is going to be, this is supposed to be our blinders, and we have some strobes in there somewhere as well. So this is basically the preparation for the file. Now you can see everything came in, and we should be able to say 601 and maybe highlight that, and it looks like there's not much light coming out of it. And that is basically a GDTF problem. Sometimes in your 3D you won't see much light coming out of it, and that's some problem with the balance between a very powerful fixture in your patch and a not so powerful fixture in your patch. If you patch a very powerful fixture, in our case we patch some strobes, it might take the global intensity for another fixture all the way down, which is kind of annoying. So sometimes you can't really see it. If we say 601 through 612 in our case here, and they are right now, they are highlighted, you can see there is light coming out of it, but it's not very much. We can zoom it in, and you can see them on the floor. But in our case, we have the rig in front of us, we are on a festival, so it doesn't really matter. Now, everything is patched, and we have our fixture sheet here. And if we just clear everything, we need to start populating our groups again, because there's, as you can see over here, there's nothing in our groups, and we did all our programming with recipes from these groups, so we need to put everything back, and it's a little bit of a work thing. But what I usually do is just take our fixture sheet here, select all my fixtures, and then I store, what is this? This is all our blinders. We put them in the linearized group, then we clear that. We take all our front light, we store that in our front light right here. This could be moving lights. In some cases it's just park cans or dimmer channels, but in this case we have moving lights, which is fine. We clear this again and we go to the next one, all our strobes, and you can see how easy it is to select something because we put it into these groups in our patch, and our groups is over here in our fixture sheet as well, so it's so easy to select fixtures and store them. This is all our strobes here. We clear that. We move on to our washes. We select all of them and we store this in our linearized group. Then we move on to maybe we need to clear. We take our spots, select all of them, store that into our spots. Did I make a mistake here? I think I did. I override the spots group, and I take our washes here and put in our wash linearized group. So now I populated the entire linearized, all the linearized groups. And if you remember from the last video, the linearized groups is simply just all the fixtures in numeric order. And we haven't done any of the selection grid yet, which we will in a second. But if you remember, we had this macro. If I open the macro window here in this one, we have this store world macro, and the macro basically stores a group or whatever is in a group plus fixture 5000, which is our tour production. And if you look over here, you can see our fixture 5000 is our dodo production, our tour production. So it stores the content of the linearized group with plus our local production in a world on its own. So right now, if we go into our 3D here and we go into house washes, and if we just clear the console like this, and we turn everything off like this, now you can see there's in this world there's only my tour production. In this world there's nothing in it. So what I want to do is I want to store all the washes plus my tour production in a world on its own. And this is what this macro does. Group house wash linearize, which is this one, plus fixture 5000, which is my tour production. We store that in a world we call house wash. We override it and we don't confirm. We clear and we do it again and again and again for all our different fixture types. So let's just run this macro and see what happens here in our 3D window. We store worlds. It's going to run. You can see it just goes through all of them, and we clear this. And now if I go into house wash, you can see I have my tour production and all the wash fixtures, our spots. Very hard to see, but they're there. Clear this. We go into our strobes. They are there. Our house blinders are there, and our front light is out here in the side. So this is basically how that macro works. It simply just sorts everything into worlds, which is going to make it a lot easier to select use the selection grid. So what I can do now is go into our setup here and our selection grid. I just make it very visible here to see what's going on. I go into my washes, and as I showed you last time, I select all my wash fixtures, and I simply just store this into my house wash group, and I clear this. I go into my spots, I do the same. We put it into the group. We want it to use the selection grid as we talked about last time. I store this into my spots group like this. We clear again. Then we take the strobes. Not that I don't really use the strobes and the blinders from the selection grid in my programming personally, but of course you could do, because sometimes we come to a very small stage with only maybe 4 blinders or 2 blinders sometimes, and maybe only 2 strobes. So having all these wings and stuff doesn't always work, especially in the winter on my show. But never mind, all the strobes we store into all the house strobes. We merge that. We go into the blinders, do the same thing. We store that into this one. And all the front light I don't need to store in any group. This is just easier if I want to be able to touch them or do something with them. You can see they turn on, and I can start moving them around here. So it's just easier when I have to select something. But I don't use it for the selection grid at all. So let's just clear this. So now we have all our worlds sorted out. We have the content of our linearized group sorted out, and we have the content of our selection grid group sorted out. So basically, some of the rig would start working now. I think if we go into one of the first queues here and the next queue, you can see something starts happening, but nothing, not all of it is working like it's supposed to, because if we clear everything again here, everything off, you can see if I go into my spots, they don't know any colors, they don't know anything about their gobos, they don't know anything about iris, focus information. They have some universal presets on zoom that's going to work, but everything here is not working, and they don't have any positions. And as we talked about last time, I usually don't clone the position. You could do that, but I usually don't do that because I have to redo them anyway. And I only have like 4 stage positions, or 2 on stage and 1 in the audience and 1 in the roof. And then I have some specials, which of course we need to fix anyway. So let's just see how much work we need to do here. My spots don't have any colors, as we talked about, and my washes don't have any colors. We need to clone information from somewhere. And what I could do, let's say we are on the washes here. Since we're working with global information, I just need to clone one of them. So if I say clone fixture 1601, if you remember in our patch, in my global fixtures, I had 3 or 4 fixtures stored in there. I called one of the washes 1601 and one of the spots 1701, which is my source information. This is a spot which has global information in the show, and I just need to grab the colors. In this case, we just grab the colors from that global fixture, and we store that, we merge that into, or clone that into our new fixture we just introduced to our show. So we say clone fixture 1601 at fixture 601, which is my first wash fixture. And we say if preset 4.1 through, and if you see here 4, this is preset 4, and this is number 1. And what I do is I say if there's any information in preset 4.1, which is this one, and then I say through for all of them. So if there's any information from this fixture we just cloned from in the preset of color, it's going to clone all of it to the new fixture. and we say enter, and it's going to ask us, how do you want to do this? I want to merge it with high priority. So if I press this one, we now grabbed the color information. So if I go into my house wash now, you can see suddenly they have color information, which we didn't have before because the show didn't know it. So we cloned the global color information. And I can just show you here, if I delete this window, I can open a macro I built for this purpose. We have this one who says clone wash, and if I go into it, what I basically do here is I go into blind, I clear everything, I set a user variable, which I called SWF, which is source wash fixture. So the source fixture. The variable here is going to ask me which number do you want to store into this variable, and I'm going to put in my source here. And the same here, it says, okay, where's the destination you want it to clone to? And I put in the destination. I'll show you how it works in a second. And then I clone the color. You can see preset 4.1 through, and I merge it. I clone beam information 5.1 through. I clone focus information, because this is basically enough for a wash light for me. As I said, I don't want to clone any position information because I have to redo it anyway. And then I clear everything, and then I exit blind. So let's see how that macro works. If I say clone wash, it's going to ask me, what is your source? And my source is 1601. And when I press enter here, it's going to store the numeric value of 1601 into a variable. And then it say, okay, where's your destination? And this is, in my case, 601. And then I press enter, and it does all the cloning. And now if I just clear, just to be sure, I select my washes here, you can see it got some new information. Not all of it, but just a little bit. Not very much though. It didn't get any down here. It did get some zoom information. I did get some, I don't have any gobo information. Maybe a little beam information. Maybe there's no information in my source fixture for that. But let's just try our spot. Again, you can see there's no colors, there's no gobos, there's no iris, prism, any information. There's only some universal information over here. So we clear this and we say clone spots, and it again asks me where's your source. My source is 1701 and our destination is 701, and it does the cloning. We clear everything and we select the spots, and you can see it now has colors, it has a few gobos, it has some rotation information, some iris information, and everything down here I haven't programmed in that fixture. So basically you want to set up your source fixture as good as you can to be able to clone whatever you need, iris information, prism information, gobo rotation, gobo information, all that stuff. So this is basically how I clone. That's basically all the cloning I do. I don't do any more cloning than that because the selection grid takes care of the rest. So let's just say the only thing we need to do now is just make some positions. You can see it's just looking straight down. So if I go into my tilt here, I can go up and say this is my position 1 merge. Then we can just move it a little bit, maybe select, no, let's just store that in number 2 as well, merge. We can go towards the audience, store that in number 3. We can go all the way up in the ceiling like this, and we can store that into our roof position. And then I have some specials here which I use for my spot fixtures. I can go up like this, and I can offset it like this. And even though we are on 2 different trusses, as you can see right now, the offset is working. Let me just explain. If I go into my audience position like this, and I use the align information here, even though we are on 2 different trusses, because the group is from the selection grid, our fan actually works, which I think is amazing, because it knows the position of the fixture. So a fan will work in pan and tilt. So if I try to do the same here, you can see even though we are on 2 trusses, it works. I think that is amazing. So let's just put it back into audience, go down, and let's just do our downstage center position here. It's not going to be very precise, but that doesn't matter. We merge that and we try to off this, move it to the guitarist over here. I know it's not precise, like this, and of course you wanted to touch it up. So let's just see if we press go now. We start the first one here, we go into the next one, and they start moving around, and we can see our timecode start running as well. So we got some information in now. Now I think we need to check out our wash fixtures, because I think they're on, they're just not very bright. So we just say timecode off here, and I take my linearized group here, and I move them. You can see they are actually on, but they are just very, very, very dim. So I can go into my 3D dark here, and I can take my washes, and I can store this in position 1, merge. We store this in position 2, merge, and we go into the audience a little bit. We store that into our audience, and we can go all the way up in the roof like this, and we store that into our roof position. The funny thing is, if I change to the wash world, you can see they are more powerful now. Not much, but a little bit more powerful now. What we can do is go in, and we can go in and say, which fixture is it? This one, it's the XI piece. We could change them to a aura. This normal standard aura, which is GrandMA2 profile. Color calibration on in a standard mode. We select that. We exit this, and they become more powerful. So it's definitely a 3D GDTF problem there is in MA3. It's a little annoying, but I mean it works. So as you can see now, everything is up and running. If I go back into the correct world now, things start to work the right way. And we didn't do anything but clone some information from our global fixture. We cloned some color information, we corrected some of our positions, and we cloned some beam information and some gobo information for the other fixtures. So let's see if our gobo works. You can see we have our gobo in here, and we didn't touch the gobo. The gobo is based on a recipe, so right now it's actually working the way it's supposed to, and I can take it out all here. So that's very simply put how you clone your information or you store your information back into your show. So what we could do now is just finish our setup. We say off here, everything off. So what do I need to do now? I go into my 3D window here, I go into my setup, and I want to store my odd and even groups just for the fun of it. Let's do that with our blinders here. We go into the linearized one, we step through them, we take this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. This is just our odd group. We say if please, which is if output, and we store this into odd. We clear that, and we select all our blinders minus this group, and we store that into the even group. Maybe I should do it here so you can see what's happening. We take our spots, and we go next, and we say full. Oops, I think I chose the wrong group. We take the spots linearized group. That is the odd ones. We store that there. Take the linearized group minus the odd group, and we store that there. All the washes, we tap through them. We store that in the odd group here. We say this one minus that one, store that there, merge. And now I have some left and right for my washes as well. So I say this, 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 and this. This is my left side. I store that here. Oops. And we say all of them minus the left should take the right ones, and we should be up and running. So now my odd and even buttons down here work again. My left and right button work again. My odd and even for my spots work again. And my odd and even for my blinders work again. And we haven't touched the content of these ones because they're recipe based. They are looking in a group. Whatever is in the group is going to be turned on, or whatever you ask it to do. You can see all the down stuff here works as well. This is from our tour production. We can have this one, we can have this stuff here. So everything seems to be working now. So if I go into my show again, you can see the wing of 2 works because it's based on the selection grid. It is really, really powerful. Let's just turn this one on. I want to show you what I did in queue number 1. In queue number 2, if I go in there, I basically just turn on or just change some to the red preset. Our ruxes, our washes, and our CLFs on stage. I am delaying it from 0 to 0, from 1 second to 0 seconds, because otherwise it would go the other way. I wanted to start in the center and go all the way out. If I turned that around, it would go from the outside into the center. So I basically just press this one, and you can see what happens. And we didn't do any cloning. We didn't do anything. We just stored our selection grid, and our recipes took care of the rest. It is amazing how easy it is to work with. So this is the workflow for deleting your fixtures on a festival, patching new MVR information into your show, and then setting everything up. It took a while, but it didn't take that long to fix it. And we did everything from scratch here. We stored the groups, we made our positions, we cloned our colors, we cloned our gobos, we cloned some beam information, and I haven't checked everything, but most of it now, I will guarantee you works now because it's recipe based. So let's, I know one thing that is not going to work, which is the guitar solo. So what did we do last time with the guitar solo? If you remember, we took some fixtures, we stored it into a solo group, and we did the position for it. So let's just say, in this case, you can see, should be able to see down here, the solo is, maybe I can show you here, this one here. It's looking at a group 69 called Solo Anders, and you can see up here it's empty because we didn't put anything into it yet, and before we deleted all our fixtures, so there's nothing in this group. So let's just go into our 3D here. Let's just make sure everything is clear, and we just off everything as well, like this. So we go into our house wash here, and I used the house washes, or the washes, for the solo position for this one. So I can just say, okay, what fixtures would I like to use for him today? We could say I want to use the top 3 here, I just want to use the 3 over here. Let's say we take these 3 here, and we store this into this group, and we merge it, and we could basically just make the position right away, and we put it all the way over to the guitarist here, like this, and maybe we fan it a little bit, like this. So now this, let's just say this is his solo position. We store and update his position. We clear. And now, if I go into my show again, into just start with number 7, which is the chorus here, our next cue should be our guitar solo. Right, just 2 minutes ago or 1 minute ago, there was nothing in that cue. The solo position didn't really happen. But now it does. You can see it's actually starting to flash as it's supposed to on his position. And that is extremely easy to use because we just put something in the group that we need today. And if you remember from the show before, we used 6 fixtures on the solo position. Right now we are only using 3. It wouldn't be a problem if you used 20, as long as you just store the right group from the selection grid and then update the position. Everything else comes from the recipes. So basically when we go out of it again, it works fine. It goes back into the right position. It goes back into red because we told it to down here in our programming somewhere. All the washes down here, if I show you the recipes here, all the washes, we stump the dimmer because it's flashing in the previous queue. We put it into red, we put it into position number 1, and we take some of the zoom information out. If you remember last time, we put zoom information into those fixtures. So we could basically just do that again. We take them here and we go into our focus here and we zoom them all the way in. They should be zoomed in now. And we could store that and use the input filter up into his position. And now, if you look here, over here, you can see it now contains position information and zoom information. So if we clear here and we go back, you can see it comes from a normal zoom. It zooms all the way in while it's flashing on him, and then it goes out again. So that's basically just because we put it in there, and if we come out and someday there's no zoom in the wash light, or we don't need it that day or whatever, we can just not store that into the group. So that's another really, really powerful thing about recipes. So basically we started with timecode, we deleted our entire patch, and then we imported our MVR file. Then we stored all our groups, we stored our odd and evens, we cloned some information from our source fixtures, which is global fixtures that are already present in our show file. So their color information is there, their beam information is there, or whatever we need from it. It's not everything we need. So we just took out what we wanted. That's basically how powerful recipes are. So setting up your 3D in advance is really, really powerful, because then you might have to work longer in your programming session. You might have to spend more time programming. But when you come out and you need to clone your information, or you need to set up your the new festival on a different rig, it is so much easier. So you're going to be in catering in no time using recipes. But yes, it is a little bit slower to program, and I definitely hope MA is going to do some updates to make that workflow easier. I think we can expect that, because this is basically their first version of recipes. I am sure there's going to be other ways of doing it. You heard a lot of talk about it. There's some plugins you can purchase, which is going to help you select it faster and work with it faster. So I hope it's going to happen in the future. Right now it's slow, but I'm sure MA is going to fix it and make it a lot faster to program. And then the power of recipes is now going to be enormous. So basically, this is this was part 2 of my little workflow video. This is, of course, a show file designed for touring with a band. This is not a show file for busking shows and stuff like that. We could maybe in a future video start working on a busking show file, also based on recipes. Leave a comment below if you want a video about that. So thank you for watching, and thank you for being on my channel, and make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss any future episodes. I hope to see you next time, and until then, have some happy GrandMA3 programming sessions. See you later. Bye-bye.